Welcome to the Heartland Journal podcast with Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. I'm Steve Abramowitz, and this is the Heartland Journal podcast. Please hit that subscribe button and pass it around so they will hit the subscribe button and will maintain popular. And thanks for doing it. On this show, we focus on our nation today with always an interesting person making a positive change in our community and lovers of truth. Today, we're talking with special guest Jon Thorp. Jon Thorp was an Army combat pilot, then flew for the Metro Nashville Police, and now is air ambulance pilot helping people on some of their hardest days. He's also running as an independent for U.S. Congress. He says he's running for the people who've given up on politics, not because they don't care, but because they haven't had someone who truly represents them. His campaign is about putting people first, not politics. It's about building a government that reflects who we really are, hardworking, thoughtful, hopeful people who still believe in the promise of this country and the strength of our communities. He's running because he says he believes our democracy works best when people like you and me stop waiting for someone else to fix it. Let's check in with Jon Thorp's campaign. Hello, sir. Thank you for your service. How are you today?
Doing excellent. Thank you for having me on. And it's been a very long race, and we're excited to see the end of it and see how it goes.
Yeah. Tennessee's got voter fatigue. We've had 4 in the last 2.5 months between special elections and city council and all the rest. It's called assembly. Are you from Tennessee?
Not. I was born in Colorado, grew up most of my life or early life anyway, in South Dakota. And then, excuse me, I moved to Tennessee in late 2000, I think, maybe early 2001, with the military, with the Army up in Fort Campbell.
Fort Campbell, so, okay. Over 25
off
years.
And on, I've been there since.
So is that why you made it home with your wife after getting out of Fort Campbell? You just stayed?
Yeah, I got back from Afghanistan in, I guess it was 2009, and met her downtown. The proverbial "she was my bartender" thing. It's kind of a funny story. I think that's the first time I've publicly admitted that. And
they make country songs about that.
They sure do. And so we bounced around a little bit. She's from California, and we tried. We were in Colorado, and we came back here. And
Heads California, tails Carolina. That's literally your life.
It's literally a song. So we both really enjoy this area, and it's a nice place to raise kids. It's a nice, slow pace of life. A lot to do. Fantastic people. So we've been here for 12 years now.
Okay. All right. Well, it is the place to be. I agree with you. We got 1 day left of early voting. Election day is Tuesday, December 2nd. How is the campaign going?
About as well as you can think of for a grassroots, small independent campaign like this. There's always new people to talk to, always new people to talk with and meet. And I'm really, really enthused every time I go out and am meeting with people, because they're just fantastic. And I think there's a real appreciation for the message that we're trying to send, which is that the major parties, the two-party system, has left us behind, and people are frustrated and they want something new. So whether or not they actually vote for us at the end of the day, we'll see in a couple of weeks. But they're at least really, really ready for that message.
You ran originally as a Republican in that big scrum of a primary that we had. Your campaign website says you're running because we haven't had someone truly represent us. Do you think Mark Green, he was chairman of the Homeland Security that impeached Mayorkas at HHS, and he's responsible for the illegal alien invasion, Mayorkas is. Do you think he didn't represent us?
If you ask the people of Tennessee, I would say a large percentage of them say no. I don't know that he ever did any town halls. As I understand, I never personally tried to contact him, but the few people that have mentioned that they tried to call him or email him were left with avoiding the answers or avoiding the questions. And I think in general, politicians, for some particular reason, become really difficult to reach when they actually get to where they're going.
That's true. And I've seen that myself. Polls in Tennessee show illegal immigration and illegals overwhelming the public schools are the number one voter concern. What are your priorities with immigration?
Well, I agree with Fred Thompson's approach. A lot of people remember him from back in the day. He had a
Law and
policy,
Order.
yeah, where he called it
Die Hard too, by the way.
yes, yes. He had a policy called tall fences, wide gates. And basically, that means if we are to be truly a nation of laws, then we need to abide by them. And that includes the immigration laws. There are policies that are in place to allow for legal immigration. And if you're illegal, then you don't follow those, you're illegal, you're breaking the law, and you need to be processed appropriately, whether that's deportation or whatever. But at the same token, there's a very difficult process that you have to follow to get here legally. And so his proposal, and I would agree with him, is we need to make it as easy as possible for people who want to come legally and assimilate and join the American society, the American culture, and make it so they can come in, improve their lives, because America is the greatest, most powerful and wealthy nation on the planet. So there's no wonder that so many people want to come here, and we should encourage that, because that's what makes us as powerful as we are, because we have so many different perspectives on things. And where I think the big problem with immigration specifically is that people skip the line, they jump the process, and that's not fair. And then they become a burden on society because they're going to be using some of the welfare assistance and things like that. And so we want them to be a welcome and participating part of society.
True. And legal better than illegal, right?
Yes, 100%.
Your opponent on the Democratic side, Afton Ben, actually filmed herself out opposing ICE raids. Van Epps ads calls her a woke liberal, saying when she wins, we lose. Do you agree with him? She's super liberal and probably should be sanctioned for that ICE raid filming, out doxing, let's call it.
I didn't watch that particular event, so I don't know on that. As far as if she wins, are we going to lose? I think there's a lot of rhetoric that tries to make the political opponent an enemy. That's what we do in the military, in order to allow people to be involved in armed conflict. You have to really dehumanize your opponent, because you can't realize that they're somebody's brother, somebody's dad, somebody's son, because that makes it really, really difficult to work with morally. So the same sort of thing happens with politics, not to that degree, of course, but you have to make them into an enemy. They're socialists, they're fascists, they're whatever. You make it to an extreme, and even as a politician is trying to appeal to their own voters, they tend to lean towards those extremes because those are the most active. And I would argue that's what's wrong with politics in our system today, is that they focus so much on those edges that they completely ignore the great bulk in the middle who just wants reasonable prices, housing that they can afford, safe streets, and immigration with reasonable bounds, and all the problems that the average American confronts every single day, and yet they tend to not focus on those and only on the fringes.
Mm.
I hope I sort of answered that question. I don't
Yeah,
mean to dodge.
you did. I mean, that's a good opinion, but do you think a lawmaker, she's assemblywoman from Nashville and wants to be in the US government in the Congress, do you think she should be out doxing ICE agents?
Doxing, no, I don't think I don't think you should be doxing ICE agents. That said, I don't think ICE agents should be wearing masks. I think law enforcement should be held to arguably a higher standard, and I don't care which branch of the law enforcement, than the average person, because they are given enormous responsibility and authority. They are given literally life and death authority in some cases. And so I think you need to hold them to at least the bare minimum of what the rest of us are. And it's not always the case. It oftentimes is, but it's not always. And I think we need to re-examine that. And I would agree with the sentiment that occasionally ICE gets a little rambunctious. There was a case in Chicago a few weeks ago where they raided an apartment complex with helicopters and militarized vehicles in the middle of the night, and they rounded up everybody, citizens and non-citizens alike. And that's absolutely against the Constitution. That was the reason we had the Fourth Amendment. And so the founders would have been rolling in their graves had they seen that. And so I think if we want to be, again, if we want to be a nation of rules, that's fine. I think we should. But Lady Liberty is blindfolded and has the scales. We need to treat everybody equally. And we have the rules in place precisely to prevent an overreach of government.
I didn't know about that Chicago case. I'll have to look into that. And I tried to get a debate for all of you, as you know, because the Republican in the race, Matt Van Epps, he never replied. We only have a couple days left. He didn't get back to me about an interview either. What can I say? I tried. Afton Ben, at least, with a thank you, but no thank you reply. So I tried. So thank you for coming on. If you win, what are your priorities?
Well, it's a very great question. Had you asked me 6 months ago, I would have said the budget is priority number one. I think the debt and the deficit presents a existential threat to the United States as we know it as a country. And the Congress has shown themselves to be completely unable or unwilling to address that. So I think we need a balanced budget amendment, but not merely a balanced budget, because just because the budget is balanced doesn't mean that's going to necessarily control spending. They can just increase taxes to crazy levels. So there's some nuance there, but I think we do need to tackle that. That said, now that I've been running for 7 months or whatever it is, I would say that election reform is probably number one, because none of the other issues that we want to tackle, whether it's immigration or the budget or healthcare or housing or you name it, none of that can be accomplished until we change the stranglehold over our political system by what I would consider a monopoly. They're two different parties, but they're basically the same. They've been in power for almost 170 years. Next year's 170 years. And we are where we are because of them. We can't point fingers anywhere else. They're the ones that have been in control. And so I think they have erected over the years, maybe not intentionally, but it's certainly made it more difficult for third parties and independents to get elected and have true representation of the people. Keep in mind, recent Gallup poll put 47% of Americans identifying as independent. And that's compared to, I can't remember, it's like 25 Republican and 24 Democrat or something like that. And the rest would be minor parties. So independents almost outnumber Democrats plus Republicans put together. And we have no representation, unless you look at Bernie and I can't remember the other guy's name in the Senate, but they're basically Democrats. So we need to have some sort of change so it makes it easier to truly represent the Americans.
There are actually 6 names on the ballot tomorrow. The Republican, the Democrat that doesn't live in District 7, by the way, you and 3 other independents. How do you think the independent candidates have been treated by the voters? Have you met some strong supporters out there knocking doors?
There are a lot of people who are all in on independent. As soon as they hear the message, almost everybody is appreciative of the message and would like to see success. Again, whether or not they actually vote is that direction is anybody's guess. But yeah, independents it's kind of the chicken or the egg type of thing. Back before the primary, News Channel 5, just for one example, invited what they said was all the candidates down to their studios to interview them in order to provide a better idea for the voters of who their options are. Well, they invited all 11 Republicans and all 4 Democrats and not a single independent. So it's hard to make the claim that they're inviting all the candidates. And so there's just this act of omission that we've been experiencing this entire time. And until a liberal super PAC started throwing money trying to promote my campaign, I basically had no access to any major journalist anywhere. It was relegated to, and I'm okay to some degree, because I think social media, independent journalists, And podcasts are going to be a massive game changer for leveling the field, so to speak, a little bit. But there's still a reliance to some degree on the legacy media, being radio and the television. So until just recently, I had no access. None of us had any access whatsoever to those stations, or even mention. They wouldn't even mention us. So
I don't know Terry Christie or Bobby Dodge or Robert Sotheby. And had you not commented on my ex post about basically calling me out after I called for a debate, I wouldn't have known you were running. I mean, it's just not a thing. I would have seen names on my ballot when I did vote early, but I wouldn't have known you like I'm getting to know you now. The TV ads have been all Van Epps, paid for by Republicans, and Afton Ben I see on Disney Plus. It's everywhere. Do you have any thoughts on who's actually going to win this thing?
I would say Van Epps is the likely victor. It'd be pretty surprising if he does not win. That what was it, 22, 24 points to Trump. Mark Green had always experienced a very large margin, so he should comfortably win. But they're obviously nervous about it because they're throwing a ton of money at it, and they're attacking me left and right because I'm a Soros plant or whatever they're calling it lately.
Would you be okay and supportive of Matt if he won, or would you be upset?
Well, I don't support either one of them. I think they're both have the same problems. I don't. How do I put this? I don't think Matt is a very good candidate. I don't. I would have supported other candidates that were running in the primary more than him. But I don't know him very well. The only things I have seen from him tell me that he is firmly establishment, firmly status quo. He'll do whatever he's told. He
Yeah,
is
we
a
really
marching
don't know
orders type of
because
guy.
he came out of nowhere. Yeah, he was, we'll talk about him in a second, but we voters didn't know who he was. Well, we did know his opponents, but then that Trump endorsement came and boom, it was game
Right.
over.
That was game over. And
And
that's fine. That's how we're tribal people. So if that's what people want, if they want to know the product, a Republican should be a Republican who, no matter who we put in there, they're cookie cutters, then that's your guy. That's who you want in there. But if you want somebody who has principles and stands for what they think Republican ideals truly mean, then I don't think he's your guy. But I don't really know him that well.
right,
I've gotten to know
especially
some
in
of the
this
other
era
candidates
of
better.
MAGA and America First and Trumpism, where they really expose like these are the principles, these are not, even if you have an R by your name. So it's interesting. Uh,
Right.
it- so yesterday was perfect here. I went to the Titans game with my son. The weather was in the 70s, perfect fall day for football. Seahawks won. Not a cloud in the sky. So we went to the Roof Bar of Eric Church's Chiefs right afterwards on Broadway. I was posting pictures of Broadway, all the bustling with tourists and the sunset, and it was just, I love Nashville. Do you?
Oh yeah, Nashville's fun, and that's why we came back here. Again, I met my wife in Nashville. When I first joined the army. Again, I'm from South Dakota, and I hated the heat. I said, "Oh my God, the humidity here is horrible. Who would ever want to live here? This place sucks." And then they sent me down to flight school in Southern Alabama, and then I went to Savannah, Georgia, which is even worse. It just progressively kept getting worse, and then they sent me back to Fort Campbell, and I said, wow, this is actually pretty nice. And you got Nashville, which is phenomenal. I loved going down to Broad, Second and Broad, all the nightlife, like you said. And even if you don't like that, there's so much to do. You've got all the lakes, you've got hills and trees and rivers, and there's something for I think anybody here. So
The
it
only
is.
thing, the only thing
It's
we don't
no.
have is the ocean. That's it.
That's yeah, that's true. My wife is from California, so she. I think I mentioned it. So she kind of misses that, but mostly I think for directions. She's horrible at directions. We lived in Colorado for a while too, so you'd either use the mountain range or the ocean as your reference for which way is up.
Afton was recently exposed for saying she hates, that's her word, Nashville, bachelorettes and country music. Do you like Nashville and country music?
Oh yeah, of course I do. Do I? I'm sure I've said I hate the traffic on more than one occasion. I'm the type of guy who will literally go additional miles just to avoid the traffic. Um, I hate that part of it. I I have not gone downtown in quite some time, probably since I had kids, because number one, I have small kids, and it's gotten kind of Vegasy in my opinion. It's a little bit too. They used to have a more of a honky tonk, like low key Americana feel, and now it's more that high tech. I'm just waiting for the next losers bar or something where the locals can go and like
Yeah.
this is our area, and I'm sure it's going to pop up again soon. We're trying
It's
to
more
read.
Times Square than it used to
Yeah,
be just the Ryman lining up to go see a show. But do you think a sitting state assemblywoman representing Nashville should keep her seat if she hates her constituents, or should Speaker Sexton expel her like they did the Justins, Jones, and Pearson?
I would say that should be up to the voters.
Voters get to choose. All right.
Yep.
Well, they will every 2 years.
Mhm.
Did you know Gary Humble? And did you hear he dropped out of his race to replace Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson?
I did not know him, but I did hear that late last night. Don't really know, honestly, a whole lot about that race.
Yeah, Jackson or Jack is Johnson is also from this district, the one you're trying to represent. So he gets to vote on your race. During the run up to the primary, he endorsed Assemblyman Lee Reeves over you, but they came out for Matt after Trump did, like a not a flip flop, but Lee pulled out, and then Jack came out for the Trump candidate, Van Epps. Do you think Trump's endorsement should have so much weight when he clearly didn't know him either? The voters don't know him, and I don't think Trump knows who Matt Van Epps is either.
Well, again, these are private organizations. Not a whole lot of people realize that the Republican and Democratic parties are private entities, and they make their own rules. They have their own, literally their own bylaws, and if they want to have their chief of staff, so to speak, endorse somebody, then that's entirely their prerogative. I think that's kind of the whole reason for the party is to stand in as a proxy for people, so they do not have to put forward the effort of diving in deeply on individual candidates. They can just say, "Oh, he's part of this tribe, so he should be okay. I'm going to vote for him." And that's normally true, but again, the parties have held a monopoly for so long that in economics we know that a monopoly breeds inefficiencies and cost overruns, and basically the lack of competitiveness makes poor qualities, poor quality output, and there's no different in politics. um, I think the sorry if you can hear the dog back
That's
in the
okay.
background.
Mine used to do it too. It's all right.
um,
The endorsement gave Matt over 50% of the vote, and
yeah.
it looked pretty close going into election day. Do you know of the other guys in the assembly that were running, Gino Bolso and Jody Barrett, the other named, or they knew who these people were, these name brand
Mhm.
candidates? Jody Barrett from Dixon. Did you know them?
Yeah, well, not prior to. I've met them since I started running, and like you said, the polls leading up to the primary were very, very close between those three. They were always kind of back and forth with who was going to be victorious, and that endorsement was the clinching factor. And
So that's
so,
my key question. Do you think Trump just should have stayed out of it and let the voters vote for who they wanted to? Because it obviously tipped the scales dramatically from 20% each to all of a sudden 50% in the final result for Matt, who got that one endorsement. You could have gotten 20% if it was a fair fight.
so it would depend on what you think the purpose of politics is. If they are supposed to be representing the people, then yes, Trump should have stayed out. But if the representatives are representing their party, then no, Trump had every right to. And whoever has the most endorsements of the party by de facto should win. But I think that's what people are pushing against. They feel unheard. They feel like they're being ignored. They feel like they don't matter. They're disillusioned,
Hmm.
and they're ready for somebody who is not simply going to toe a party line and do as they're told. They're going to listen to the voters, because I would argue that's the whole purpose of a representative, is to listen to the voters. And maybe not always do exactly as they want, try to be some sort of a filter and um, an ambassador, so to speak, and say, I understand where you're coming from, but if we do this, we're going to be screwing over future generations or something like that. I think sometimes people don't want to commit the what would often be considered political suicide to make those hard calls and make the honest calls about things that are going to be hurting future generations at our benefit, because that's ultimately what a direct democracy would do, which is what it would be if we were just going to do exactly as the voters wanted us to.
Right. So you're saying he's the perfect representative of the Republican Party. She's the perfect representative of the Democratic Party. If somebody's looking for a third way, then that's when you start looking at independents. If they would make it a fair fight for a third or fourth party in our
Right.
two-party system to actually do this. And so that's what you've run into. So speaking of next generations and the generation after that, the debt in America is near 40 trillion, 40T, and no sign of slowing down with the spending. We
Mm-hmm.
pay more in interest per year than the entire defense budget now. We're coming close to more than on Social Security for interest alone. Do you have a debt reduction plan?
Well, there's a bunch of them out there. I have my own, but I don't know that it would be any better than, like, there's a good one that's been promoted by Rand Paul for a number of years. He calls the penny. He used to call the penny plan. I think it's the six penny plan or something like that. I think maybe I haven't looked too terribly deep into it, but I think that would probably be a little bit better than my rip the band-aid off approach. There are many ways to do it, but the discussions aren't even being held right now, and that's what we need to have. And that's, I think, why I put now election reform above the budget itself, because we're not even having an honest discussion about it. They had Doge go through and identify all these cuts, and they fought and fought and fought and fought and finally passed, what was it, $9 billion or something, which was less than 0.5% of the current year deficit. That's not even being serious. They're clowns.
And they
It's
just shut it
not
down yesterday, and it isn't even in the Build Back Better for,
right.
it's just going to spend it
They have
again.
no inclination whatsoever to address it. So,
If you
um,
win, do you think you'd be happy in DC?
no, that's an easy question.
Well, I asked because the other congressmen from here I've talked to, like Tim Burchett and Andy Ogles, I just saw him yesterday at the football game. They quite frankly seem miserable. Tim
No.
was mayor of Knox County, and Andy, who I just saw, was mayor of Murray County, and seems so much happier here at home. So, do you think you and your wife even want to join the swamp?
No, no, we don't. But I have two young kids, and I was that disillusioned voter, and I was waiting for somebody to step forward and do things to save the country, and nobody's out to save us. We have to do it ourselves. So I was being completely selfish, waiting for somebody else to do it. And so I am willing to step forward, try to break that glass ceiling, make it so other people can step forward, do their job, get term limits in, get election reform, get it so we can have a revolving door of representatives of the people. It's supposed to be by the people for the people, right? And I think they forget that. So if we can just get that ball moving in the right direction, I will say right here, and I've said it many times, absolutely no more than 2 terms, period. I don't want to be up there. I don't think we should have professional politicians. I think that is a cornerstone of why we've had so many problems, because we have these professionals up there. It's supposed to be citizen representatives, do their duty, and then they step back and let the next generation take over.
Right. That shouldn't be go up there for a paycheck. They should be missing their paycheck to get back home after doing the right thing.
Right.
And I bring this up too because on your website, one of your values are people over partisanship. I don't work for a party. I work for you. Prosperity should belong to the people, not political factions. That's not how DC works. I'm sorry to say. I wish it was. It's all partisan all the time. Have you seen how they treat Thomas Massey from Kentucky
Mm-hmm.
and Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia for stepping off the MAGA reservation?
Yeah, and in fact, when they threatened Massey with primary back in March, when he voted, he was the only Republican that voted against the continuing resolution, again on principle, because that's what's best for his constituents. They threatened him with primary, and that's ultimately why I ran. It represents the fact that Washington values conformity and towing the line over ideology and doing what's best, principle, and doing what's best for the people. And I think that's not even a good way to run a business, let alone a country. And I would further say that I think Congress needs to do their job a whole lot better. They don't do their job currently, which is fund the government and make sure it's running properly. They should appropriate every single bill so they don't have to rely on these darn continuing resolution bills. We should not have any omnibus bills, one issue, one bill, one vote, period.
Balanced budget like we have in the States.
Right. And then I would also suggest, everybody was freaking out about the government shutdown. Up until the early 1900s, just after, before the Great Depression, the federal government, the Congress rather, only met on average 6 to 8 months a year. The rest of the time they were in their states working with their constituents. I think that is a model we should go back to as well, because again, you can't represent people when you're hundreds or thousands of miles away in the cesspool of the country.
Hopefully not hundreds of thousands of miles away.
No, hundreds or thousands.
Oh, sorry. Okay, there you go.
Depending on where you were coming from.
Yeah.
You're the point being that you're not in your backyard, so you can't easily talk to the people that you're supposed to be representing. And how are you supposed to represent people if you're not there? And it gets even worse. So when they're not on Capitol Hill, the Republicans and the Democrats have a building that's literally right across the street where they go. And if they're not actively on Capitol Hill, they are in there on the phone, calling donors, raising money for their party. That's their job.
That's their job.
They're told what bills to vote for. They're told what bills to vote against, and then they're told to go and raise money for the party. That is not representing the people.
I love this one on your site. Prosperity built locally. Government doesn't create prosperity. People do. Let's get back to supporting communities and let Americans build. We have a county mayor race coming next year, along with governor. Why don't you run for mayor where the community is instead of U.S. Congress, where they trade stocks all day and, like you said, dial for dollars?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Or state house, start local. Why aren't you starting local? And that's a fair argument. I don't know that I really have a great answer for that, especially considering that I have no political past. But again, the country was supposed to be basically your average citizen representation. So it wouldn't have mattered that you had no previous background for the early, at least on paper. Realistically, it was very much an aristocratic society, but they were definitely not professional politicians like we have now. But that said, I have a background in economics, master's degree with Austrian economics, and so I just have a natural bias or a filter, I guess, that I put everything through. And so again, I put the budget as my number one potentially existential threat. And so that was so alarming to me that I felt like the only logical place for me to run was at the chamber that has control over the purse, which is the House.
I don't think since Ron Paul have we had a Mrs. Institute congressman up there, so that would be a good thing. There are 8 congressional districts in Tennessee. You're running for D7. Diana Harshberger, Tim Burchett, everyone knows, Chuck Fleischman, Scott Desjardins, Andy Ogles, John Rose, who's also running for governor, David Kustoff, all Republicans, and Steve Cohen, District 8, the one Democrat, and from Memphis. Do you know these folks? Ever worked with them on anything to team up with in DC if you go?
I have followed them on social media, and I'm familiar somewhat with a little bit of what they espouse, but I don't know personally any of them. That would obviously be something I'd have to work with when we got up there.
7 Republicans and Cohen, who's been there since Reconstruction. Actually, 1983 was when he was first elected. 42 freaking years. Do you think any congressman should be able to serve 21 terms, or do you want term limits?
Oh, absolutely. I'm 100% in favor of term limits. And I think it's like 80, 83, 84% of Americans, depending on the poll you're looking at, are in favor of term limits as well. But here's the caveat. A lot of people just look at that. You can't just merely restrict elected politicians, because if you do that, the power structure is going to go to unelected bureaucracy. So you need to do some sort of term limits on on the bureaucracy as well, the administrative side.
Yeah, and to be fair, 24 years he was in the state Senate and still going. 18 years is in the House. Memphis is a mess. Why do they keep electing him and expecting a different result?
Well,
You don't
insanity, right?
know.
That's
And say, there
those.
you go. Okay, easy answer. Well, like I said, seven Republicans and one Democrat fossil. Those are the two major parties. Why did you choose to run as an independent?
Well, I actually started running as a Republican, and they quickly told me that I was not bona fide. I haven't voted since 2000, so they said, "No, you don't qualify." And I said, "Well, your bylaws say that you can look at my record and um, make an exception if you want." And they said they just ghosted me. They didn't say anything. So um, I actually was glad that they wouldn't let me in because I felt those were I don't know, the first maybe 2 months that I was running, and I always felt like I had to be very careful about what I was saying on social media because I didn't want to upset the leadership. And as soon as I announced that I was running, to fly right around. As soon as I announced that I was running as a independent, it just totally freed me up. And then I could say literally whatever was on my mind, whatever I thought was best for the people themselves. And it was so liberating. And again, the reason why I'm running as an independent is because I think a representative should represent the people, not a party, not a leadership, not a donor, not a powerful elite anywhere, just the people that elect them and put them in office.
Do you know the other three, Terry, Bobby, and Robert?
I have met them. Do I know them? I don't know that I would say I know them very well.
Do one of the four
Um,
of you represent the independent party, let's just say, or the
well,
independents
we
more than the
actually
other?
talked about that the other day. We had an event where a few of them showed up, and one of the things, again, we had 11 Republicans and 4 Democrats in the primary, and then they narrowed it down to one. And this was taxpayer funded, by the way. And so that brought a lot of news just to that race. Yet there was no primary for the independents. There's no way to whittle down the 4 independents down to one best representation. Um, One of the guys, the one that was bringing this up, suggested that I would be the winner of that primary, but it does it does beg the question of why. Again, this is election reform. Like, how is that fair? Because now we have 6 people on the ballot. There are 4 independents that are listed below automatically. At least that's how it is in Tennessee. The Democrat and the Republican, and then it's alphabetical. So I'm literally the last one on this list. So unless you're looking for me, I'm not getting anything.
Right. Do you think if it's a close race and Afton wins because only she become only the second Democrat from here with Cohen, it might be because the four of you took 2 or 3% from Matt?
Possible.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
That would
That's
help
that's
a
that's the
radical and
voting
true
process.
socialist
You
represent
know
Williamson
that
County.
Yeah, but that's the voting process. So again, I have some yard signs out there that it kind of looks like a little ballot, and it says evil with a little a little blank check mark next to it, or block next to it, lesser evil, and then Jon Thorp with a check mark. The idea being that we're always told that you have to vote for the lesser of two evil because you don't want evil to win. But that is not what how voting works. That's not the purpose of it. That's not what the intent was. Now, mathematically, because of the way our system is set up, 2 parties are almost guaranteed to always result from that. And that's why we need election reform, whether it's ranked choice voting or multi-member districts, or there are a number of different solutions that have been proposed, but we have to somehow get people in there, and we're never going to get people in there unless they vote for it. And it's not my fault that a Republican or a Democrat puts up a bad candidate that isn't attracting votes. If somebody wants to vote for me because the Republicans have a bad, in their mind, in the voters' mind, a bad candidate, that's not my fault. That's the voting process.
Polling by the group Impact Research found that if the general election is in line with the primaries turnout, Van Epps will lead Ben by 8 points. Researchers also found that gap could be within 3 points if independent candidate Jon Thorp is able to draw Republican voters away from Van Epps. Have you considered dropping out and throwing your support behind Matt to help Republicans win, or is that out of the question?
Out of the question.
Okay. Both DNC chair Ken Martin and RNC chair Joe Grutters have knocked on doors for their candidates. Newsweek said a Ben internal poll conducted by Workbench Strategy found that among those most motivated to vote, the two candidates were tied at 49% support. I don't buy it, but what if she actually wins and Democrats take back the majority, making Hakeem Jeffries, another radical, and Afton Ben adding to the AOC Ilhan Omar squad? They don't agree with your values stated on your website, and they call Afton Tennessee's AOC in the news. Wouldn't that be embarrassing for Tennessee?
Be embarrassing for the Republican Party in Tennessee.
All right, so you have no love for the Republican Party in Tennessee, who didn't
I
show
have
you
no
any
love.
either, so it's okay.
Well, I don't have love for either one of them. Look at the Democratic Party. They have, without my acknowledgement, without my approval, without any sort of coordination or requesting, can by your leave, may I use your images and your likeness and put some advertisements out there? No, they just go out and do it and make it seem like I'm trying to attack Matt Van Epps, which I've never done that. I have not had a single attack against anybody. My whole campaign is about don't vote against someone else, vote for someone. That's why I haven't voted for so long, because I never felt that I felt it was morally repugnant to claim that you have to vote against someone. That's not the purpose of voting. The purpose of voting should be to vote for someone who represents you. If I don't represent you, don't vote for me. If Matt doesn't represent you, don't vote for him. Afton doesn't represent you, don't vote for her. It's that simple. Write someone in if you want, if you feel the need to vote, or just sit at home and don't vote. Because I think even the low voter turnout is a statement against the system.
Oh yeah, apathy,
At
huge.
some point, you have to say, well, are we really truly representative of the people?
Yeah. Overcoming apathy is huge, because if there is apathy, that means the voters really don't care who wins because they're not serving them. So what's the point? Why be vested in them? Everyone knows who Tucker Carlson is. He was with CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Most recently, he's got his own podcast. Most people don't know that he founded a website that he sold, kind of a Daily Wire here in Nashville, or Blaze out of Texas, conservative-minded news, let's just say, libertarian for sure. The Daily Caller. Did you know that?
Yes.
They have a journalist, Ashley Brashfield, that did a write-up on you. Did you get a chance to speak to her before they ran it November 17th?
I didn't even know there was one by then.
Right. Well, so do you think by them talking about what was it here? Fairs. So I don't think they were fair, but they an effort to boost you is being led by the Democratic Liberal PAC, Your Community, that has $20 million. Did you know they talked about that?
Well, yeah, that's been in the news a lot. Your Community PAC is a super PAC that's spent reportedly somewhere around 100 grand sending out mailers and online advertisements.
Yeah, that's what they basically flushed out. They spent $14 million for Democrats and $2.5 million against Republicans, zero for Republicans and zero against Democrats. Why do you think they would give you money when you were running as a Republican?
As an independent, you mean?
Well, I don't know if it came before or after you made the move.
Oh, well, it certainly would have been after, because there would have been no reason whatsoever to because I was never on the primary list for the Republican Party. You had to get signatures in order to appear on the ballot, and I did not want them to be challenged. I was waiting again diligently for the Republican leadership. I don't remember what they call the committee exactly, to approve my candidacy.
SEC, I believe.
SEC, yeah. And they never got back to me. So I said, well, I guess that means they're not going to approve me. So I'm just going to run as an independent. So I never showed up anywhere unless they were just merely looking at FEC filings, which Doesn't seem likely to me.
I got it from open source, and you withdrew from the Republican race after the poll, and I got a mailer from you as an independent comparing yourself to Matt. Why didn't you compare yourself to Afton, who you're really politically opposed to?
Yeah, that was all the super PAC. That's not me.
Oh, so they did it without your
Correct.
awareness. Okay, so
Yeah.
so
And
it's called
here's the
your.
kicker.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
your community PAC. And here's the kicker. I can't, people have been calling me out. Well, if you don't really support it, why don't you call them and tell them? Now I've made at least, this is probably the third podcast appearance that I've denounced those. I've personally put up 2 videos on social media, on all my social medias, saying that is not from me. People who are emailing me, because that's actually how I found out about it, was there's a supporter who said, hey, can you clarify this second point of your mailer? And I said, that is not my mailer. Can you send me a picture? Because it's the first I've heard of it. And if I contact your community PAC directly, that is an FEC violation. I can be fined and maybe even kicked out of the race. That's coordination. That is illegal. I can't even call. Now I can use a lawyer, but I'm grassroots, and I don't know, one of those stories in there talked about how much money I raised. I don't have money for a lawyer to chase down some multi-million-dollar PAC that's backed by who knows how many deep pockets that are probably going to ignore me till the very end. And by that point, the race is over. So there's virtually nothing I can do. And that again speaks volumes to what's wrong with our system. I don't think a company should be able to do that.
Well, no, because your
very,
community
very
PAC is directly related to Arabella Advisors Network, which is the mothership of Democratic dark money, which is, like I said, George Soros. And so you got out of state billionaires using you as a foil to the Republican because they are anti-Republican in nature. So you're like a you're like a clickbait without your own knowledge, and that isn't fair. That shouldn't be right. And then you don't have a lawyer to defend yourself or to sue for any damage. And if it's election interference by destroying you in the process, that ain't good either. We got a problem here. So both they and Afton have been running ads about the Epstein files, saying Matt will keep them locked away. The House just voted to release them, so that's kind of over now. They also call him a billionaire puppet for the elite. George Soros is a billionaire, who we just said he was funding that anti-Matt, anti-John flyer. Do you feel bad about them using Epstein and blaming billionaires to win political points?
Well, I think that's valid material. I think the Epstein issue is a good proxy for how a person is going to act in office.
But only one Republican voted no to open it. It's like a unanimous decision to finally do
Well,
it.
it is now, but how long was that fight? Again, we look at principle. Thomas Massey was leading that fight.
But Matt's not elected. He's not there. Neither is Afton, neither are you. So it's sort of
correct.
Like,
and to my knowledge, I don't know what their stance, either one of them. I don't know what their stance is on the Epstein files. I do know that Matt got ambushed at the airport one day, and he asked whoever asked him if he would release the files, if he would vote for the release.
That was Justin Canoe with the Nashville Holler, or the Tennessee Holler, but he didn't answer.
He didn't have an answer.
He didn't say a word.
Not a word. Which that
I just think if he had voted no, excuse me, okay, we can give him a hard time. If he voted yes, we can't. But he didn't even have an opportunity because he's never been elected to office before.
But you should have an answer. I have said over and over and over and over without hesitation that I absolutely would vote for the release of the Epstein files, because it's a proxy for what is wrong with the government, and that is,
to be fair, Justin Canoe is very abusive, and I'm not sure that he would have noticed him and said, "I'm going to even give you the time of day," much less answer a question like that. So, well,
probably
it's a moot point. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be on next year's election ballot, so it's whatever. But Van Epp served as Tennessee's Commissioner of General Services, and Mark Green, who quit after voting for the big beautiful bill, is the reason why this race is even necessary. Do you think Matt did a good job as commissioner, and would you have voted for the big Build Back Better if you had the seat like all the other Tennessee delegates did, except for Cohen?
I will start with your second question. I absolutely would not vote for the big beautiful bill, and those are omnibus bills, which I think should be outlawed outright. I think they are too easy to manipulate. They're too easy to put all the pork in there. And then if you say you don't support the big beautiful bill, they will find one little piece of it that's going to be, money for orphans or money for disabled vets. And you don't like, see, Jon Thorp doesn't like disabled vets because he's voting against the big beautiful bill. They'll take one little thing about it that people are going to get latched on emotionally, and they ignore all the other trash that's in it. And that's I think needs to change.
I hate omnibus bills. They're the
Everybody
worst.
hates it. And
Well, everyone but DC, because they get to hide behind the vote, almost like a
right,
voice vote on something
and they
important.
both do it. Both parties do it. They love it. That's how they get.
It's how we got to $40 trillion of debt. You never get to say, well, they voted for it, not us. But yes,
Yeah,
you did.
yeah.
So Van Epps also got Governor Lee's endorsement. How do you assess the 7 years of Bill Lee's term?
Um, mm, Unremarkable. And I failed to answer your other question about how Van Epps performed in the role.
Oh, right. Thank you.
I think there's, because I think that's very important. I would argue that that is more important than what people oftentimes will make it out to be. And I don't just mean his role, but government's response in general to COVID. I think that should alarm everybody. That should be a massive part of our education system and show people what can go wrong, because I would argue that almost everything about our COVID response was wrong. And what can go wrong in an emergency if we allow politicians to latch on to a supposed emergency and say we have to bend the rules. The rules are there specifically to keep the government in check and not go overboard, not go into the domains that they are not allowed to. The governments, most governments somehow got into whose businesses were legitimate, were necessary, and whose were not. And it literally ruined people's lives, and in many cases caused people's financial end and their own life to end. So I can't fathom any universe where we just give a pass to anyone that proposes that those are legitimate uses of government.
Some critics refer to Matt as the Tennessee Fauci. He was deputy chief operating officer in the governor's office. He was the strategic planner for the Unified Command Group. If there was a map, he helped draw it. If there was restrictions, he helped enforce them. If there was a protocol, he helped build them. Nobody's asked him. If I get a debate, I will, but I'm not gonna. What would he do? What would you do differently if it happened again?
Well, if I was in that role, you would protest as much as you could protest, and if they threatened you with, that's your job, you have to. All you're doing is implementation. I don't know if he was part of the actual rulemaking or he was just his job to implement. I think his proper role would have been to retire, to back out and protest.
Quit and protest, yeah.
Quit and protest.
That's why I wanted a debate. It's his only paper trail. It's the only thing. So now we're giving him the pass to go join the big group in DC that also top down did all that to us. And I've never seen a congressional election without a debate. What would you have done differently about this race if you had to do it all over again?
Oh, let's see. I think I would have initially ran as an independent, not try the Republican route. My strategy initially, I'd never done this before. I got a campaign manager that had worked on some campaigns out Midwest, and they suggested that we need to try to focus on social media, kind of a national umbrella to get donations to come in, because ultimately it's all about name recognition, and you can't get out and talk to the voters if you don't have money and you don't have name recognition. So you have to get the money first, but nobody knew me, so they weren't giving me any money. So we wasted a lot of time, I think, just trying to get donations. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have just scratched that whole thing and just gone out grassroots and just talked to people.
Good advice for next time. So if the Tennessee Fauci label is unfair, he should have to prove it, right? I mean, he should say so, but this campaign is probably so low energy and low turnout because nobody knows the candidates. Should I don't know, should media outlets be giving away free airtime to every candidate on the thing? Should parties affiliate, give more money to these candidates? I mean, what could we possibly do to make an independent like yourself rise in awareness? If not, you can't obviously hand you the election or the
Right.
nomination, but you could. There has to be something out there in the universe to help a grassroots candidate grow.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's a ton of different solutions proposals that can help. There we used to have the fairness doctrine where each party had to have equal time airtime. I don't know if that applied to independents, but there's certainly something to be said for that. I would argue that we have to somehow get the money out of the elections. Citizens United is a glaring error, in my opinion. We need to pass legislation to overturn that. To what degree, I don't know. Maybe restrict them to the same level that the average citizen is restricted. Does it need to be taxpayer funded elections? Maybe that's a way we can get most of the money out. I'm a little bit I'm open to what the proper solution should be, and I think that's something that I is honestly missing in politics, where a politician pretends to know all the answers for every single question under the sun, and they never want to say, well, I don't know. I'm open to suggestion. Let's have a discussion about it.
And
And that's
Gary Humble and his Tennessee stand sort of did fill that vacuum after his lost election. I think it was 3 years ago. So, maybe you could fill in that void. So, John, we are in overtime, but thank you for your time. Tell our listeners where they can go to find out more about you and follow your campaign, your social media, and give us your closing argument.
Well, Thorp for Congress is my website. I'm on all the social medias. There's a link down at the bottom where you can find us all over the place. I would say, once again, I put my I registered for this race back in March. So I don't know for certain, but I have a feeling that I was probably the first candidate to put my hat in the ring. And my goal was always 2026. Hasn't changed. I'm under no illusions that I'm going to win this one, but I'm going to continue on to 2026. And I think, depending on how well we do here, we have a real shot of truly representing the people. So, going to keep on doing that grassroots, going out and talking with people, because everybody has a really cool story, and Tennesseans are upset and they want something new. So
And
hopefully
there's
we
always
can.
another election, so don't throw in the towel just on one strike. They get
There
your
you
name
go.
out there and keep rolling.
Yep.
If the people want you, they'll let you know. Well, thank you for coming on with us for sure, and hang on, folks. I will be right back.
If country ain't country, then this ain't gonna work. Oh, there ain't no gold in this new Nashville dirt.
Thanks for coming back, y'all. Please subscribe to heartlandjournal.com. Email address is all we ask, and never miss a new one. It's free. Now the Heartland Journal News. Anti-Semitism. Qatar's influence in Washington, D.C., through lobbying and related activities far surpasses that of China and Israel, driven by a strategic, multifaceted campaign that combines direct foreign agent registrations, unprecedented political access, and billions in soft power investments. While China boasts high cumulative Foreign Agent Registration Act (FARA) expenditures, and Israel leverages domestic pro-Israel groups, Qatar's efforts are more concentrated, aggressive, and effective in penetrating the heart of U.S. policymaking. This dominance stems from Doha's post-2017 blockade response, where it ramped up spending to counter Saudi and UAE pressure, resulting in a lobbying footprint that eclipses rivals in key metrics like in-person meetings with officials and DC-based operatives. Under FARA, which mandates disclosure of foreign influence activities, Qatar has registered 31 agents since 2016, with 22, 71%, headquartered in Washington, D.C., the highest concentration among major foreign players. This DC-centric approach ensures direct access to lawmakers and agencies. Unlike more diffuse efforts elsewhere, Qatar's FARA spending totals nearly $250 million on 88 lobbying and public relations firms over the same period, funding high-profile operatives, including former U.S. Congress members like Democrats Jim Moran and Republicans Tom Davis and Tom Reynolds. These agents orchestrate campaigns to shape U.S. Middle East policy, often portraying Qatar as a mediator in conflicts like Gaza, while downplaying its ties to groups like Hamas. In contrast, Israel's direct FARA footprint is smaller, just 16 registrants with only 8 in DC, 50% concentration, and $194 million spent since 2016. Much of Israel's influence flows through U.S.-based organizations like the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, which spent $3.3 million on lobbying and $51 million on campaign contributions in 2024 alone. While effective, AIPAC operates as a domestic entity exempt from FARA scrutiny, meaning Israel's lobbying evades full transparencies as foreign influence. Critics argue this creates an uneven playing field, but it underscores Qatar's edge in overt registered foreign operations. Qatar doesn't hide behind proxies, it floods DC with disclosed agents. China's FARA numbers appears formidable at around $460 million since 2016, but this is inflated by broad trade promotions and tourism activities rather than targeted DC political lobbying. In 2024, China's government and entities like Hikvision spent about $25 million spread across economic interests amid U.S.-China tensions, including tariffs and tech bans that limit Beijing's access. Unlike Qatar's laser-focused DC presence, China's efforts face bipartisan suspicion, with many activities scrutinized or curtailed under national security pretexts. Qatar, by contrast, positions itself as a U.S. ally, hosting 6,500 American troops at Al Udeid Air Base, enabling smoother infiltration. The true measure of Qatar's superiority lies in access. The true measure of Qatar's superiority lies in access. From 2021 to mid-2025, Qatari agents logged 627 in-person meetings with U.S. political contacts, outpacing every other nation. These encounters involved top congressional staff and policymakers, often sponsored via luxury trips to Doha. 48 congressional offices participated in 2024 alone. Such direct engagement translates to policy wins, like U.S. support of Qatar's mediation role in Gaza talks, despite its Hamas hosting. China and Israel lack comparable metrics. Beijing's meetings are hampered by espionage fears, while Israel's rely on AIPAC's grassroots mobilization rather than foreign agent disclosures. Beyond FARA, Qatar amplifies its DC sway through soft power investments that shape elite opinions. Since 2001, it has funneled $6.2 billion to U.S. universities, edging out China's $5.6 billion as the top foreign donor, funding branch campuses in Doha's Education City for institutions like Cornell and Texas A&M. Over 90% of these funds stay in Qatar, but they foster pro-Qatar narratives in U.S. academia, influencing policy debates. In the past 5 years, Qatar donated $9.1 million to think tanks, the third largest sum, backing outlets like Brookings, where former executives face scandals over undisclosed Qatari ties. These investments create an echo chamber in D.C. where experts testify before Congress with implicit biases. Israel's soft power, via groups funding anti-Semitism institutes, pales in scale and direct foreign lineage. China's university funding, while substantial, draws scrutiny for intellectual property theft and Confucius Institute's disclosures. They closed them. Diluted impact. Qatar's broader $93.7 billion U.S. footprint, including $30 billion in business, $29 billion in weapons, and $20 billion in energy, cemented economic leverage, pressuring policymakers to prioritize Doha. China's influence is blunted by geopolitical rivalry. U.S. officials view Beijing's lobbying as adversarial, leading to CFIUS blocks and export controls. Israel's domestic lobbies, though potent in elections, can't match Qatar's foreign agent volume or meeting tally, and recent scandals highlight illicit efforts overshadowed by Qatar's legal deluge. Qatar's strategy: legal, lavish, and localized. has made it a DC giant, with critics warning of undue sway over U.S. foreign policy. In sum, Qatar's lobbying eclipses China and Israel by far through DC concentration, unmatched access, and symbiotic investments. These totals favor China effectiveness, while totals favor China, effectiveness crowns Qatar, turning dollars into decisions that align U.S. policy with Doha's ambitions. The end. I didn't put this in the article, but there are an estimated 2.3 to 2.6 billion Christians worldwide. Muslims made up about 25.6% of the global population, or roughly 2 billion people. There are approximately 15.7 to 15.8 million Jews in the world, with roughly half residing in Israel and the other half in countries like the United States. That's millions versus billions. So tell me again how it is the Jews run the world. They are literally the least among us. Luke 9:48. Then he said to them, "Whoever welcomes the little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me, God, for it is the one who is least among you all who is the greatest." I don't know. That's it for this episode. Thank you, Jon Thorp, for being brave enough to come on and answer tough questions. I really think you should come out for Matt Van Epps and not risk sending Tennessee's AOC to DC. That would be very bad. And since I always say, don't California my Tennessee, that's pretty much the same thing. Anyway, good luck and congratulations on running. Democrats have performed well in special elections this year, at times outperforming by large margins. In the special election for Arizona's 7th congressional district, for instance, Adelita Grijalva won by 39 points, while former Vice President Kamala Harris won the district by only 22 last November. In the special election for Virginia's 11th congressional district, Democrat James Walkinshaw won by about 50 points after Harris won by 34. Take nothing for granted. Always play like you're down by 5. This is goodbye for now. I'm your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of HeartlandJournal.com. Peace in our time and glory to God.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, and it's city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and they're like, oh my god, Nashville is so fabulous!
They're so loud.
State Representative Afton Bain here, the Democratic nominee for the 7th Congressional Special Election in Tennessee. For those of you just joining in, I often record segments in my Jeep Wrangler called Wranglin' Time. Yes, there is a theme song, and no, I will not be singing it today, but yes, I will bring it back because I know a lot of you miss it, and you've said I sing well. So I look a little rough. I have bags under my eyes because the Republican eye of Sauron has finally shifted towards moi. And I'm sure you've seen the commercials. I'm sure you've seen the onslaught of ads. And then today, the Republicans decided that they're going to start this narrative that me, the state representative who represents downtown Nashville, doesn't like the city. Now, I always want Nashville to be better, right? I want Nashville to be a place where working people can thrive, right? But sure, I get mad at the Bachelorette sometimes. I get mad at the pedal taverns, right? And you're talking to someone who has cried no less than 10 times in the Country Music Hall of Fame. The girl that just goes to the Ryman to hang out. No, we're not even gonna go there. We are so close to winning this race, which is why these rumors are getting more wild. So I can't wait to see what they come up with next. But y'all, please keep doing the work. We had a huge group show up today to canvass in the middle of the afternoon. It was raining. It was wet. And this girl came up to me. She said, your campaign is inspiring so many of us across the state and across the country. Keep it up. And so you know what? I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is fighting to make healthcare and life more affordable for Tennesseans. And so, I'm not going to take the bait. So let's go.
Johnny's in America, no tricks at the wheel. No one needs anyone afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of heartlandjournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.